Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Elliot. This is another episode of Urban Sage Teachings 101. I came up here to the Griffith Observatory today to, give you guys a change of scenery so you just weren't, seeing the inside of my apartment for 15 minutes. And I brought my easel and my whiteboard, but it's a little windy, so rather than having it fly down the mountain, I figured I'd save that for another time. So what I want to talk about today is being attached with your true self, your authentic, original identity. I'm coming out with a book about really how to distinguish between your two types of self. One is the deceptive self, which is really a formation of how you perceive you will be accepted in society, right? And the other is you just genuinely accepting who you are and showing up in society however that would be to you. So I've noticed that a lot of the times people are in a lot of tension and disease in society and, I assume within themselves, because they don't really have a firm understanding of what their identity is, of who they truly are, what their true self is. And when you form a firm connection with your true self, your true identity, your authentic self, your ability to just move through your life with joy and peace and comfort becomes natural. And the real question is, well, how do I do that? How do I form this connection with my true self? How do I get in a clear bond with my original identity? And first, you have to really distinguish what isn't your true self. So there's the deceptive self, which is the polar opposite of your true self. The deceptive self is, I'm going to behave in this type of a way because I think that's what I'm expected to do. And the true self is, I'm going to behave this way because I know this is me. And, really starting to distinguish who is the false self of your behavior, who is the conductor of your false behavior, will really allow you to, slowly push all of that behavior, all of that thinking out of your life, so then a naturalistic identity can take its place. So if you're moving throughout your day and you're behaving in a way that isn't authentic to who you truly are, if you make a decision and you think like, why did I just think or say that, or you are going about your day in a way that is really full of tension and full of discomfort, and you're thinking to yourself, how is this my life? Is this really me? Like, why am I doing this? A lot of that is a product of just living with your deceptive self and living in more thought of what you want other people to perceive you as than what you perceive yourself as. So really starting to distinguish this thinking that is rooted in how am I going to be perceived? And then the opposite is filling that now formed gap of from the removal of that thinking with who you truly are, what you really think, what really is your identity, and really start to replace the deceptive self with the true self. And then you start to live your life in a way that is really just, it's full of joy because you're really taking behavior and having thoughts that are aligned with who you truly are, right? Which is sounds pretty nice, right? And then there's no tension in your life because you're no longer being a part of something that you wish you weren't, right? And then the product of that is really just something that thrusts you into gratitude. Just being able to be a part of the consequences of living your true life, your true self, is something that will just overwhelm you with gratitude, because you start to say like, wow, like this is insane. Like, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to start to live a life that you have never been familiar with, but it's a life that you've always wanted to live. So when you start to live this life that is of really aligned with your true authentic identity, you're going to be able to compare and contrast that new authentic life with the life that was full of tension before, right? And you start to look back and you start to say, wow, like I can't believe this is my life. Like this is amazing. This is insane, right? And you start it starts to have exponential growth. Like in the beginning, it's very unfamiliar, and it's like, wow, like this feels good, but I'm kind of unsure if this is really what I should be doing, right? And that unsureness becomes less familiar because you start being more familiar with the comfort that living an authentic life will provide to you. So, you start to wonder, you're listening to me and you're like, well, okay, like how do I start to live a life that is aligned with my authentic self, right? With my true identity. And to start, you have to take some time with yourself. You have to think for yourself, well, after you remove all of this, behavior that is formed from how you want to be perceived, there's like an emptiness there, right? And so there's this gap of, well, now who am I? What should I fill this space with now? Like, I know I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to, live a life that is trying to appease other people and a life that is just striving for acceptance. Like, okay, I know I don't want to do that anymore, but now what do I replace that with? And to have an understanding of what you're going to replace that life with is only understood when you take some time with yourself. You sit with yourself. You really start to contextualize who makes you up, right? Like, what are your interests? What aspects of life do you want to be a part of? In my book coming out, I talk about what your gifts are, right? And your gifts are something that you do that are when you're taking part in them, you excel higher than anything else, but also it's effortless, right? You're not straining yourself to excel greatly. You're just naturally excelling greatly, and it provides you with this supreme level of joy. And so, you sit with yourself and you ask yourself, like, well, so what are some aspects of who I am that stand out more than others, that I enjoy? What are aspects of life that I want to be a part of because I'm intrigued by them? And you start to dive into the life that you wish you had, right? See, when you're living a life from your deceptive self, you're on the outside looking in, right? Because you know for yourself what your authentic life is, but on the outside you're living a life that is misaligned with that, right? So you're living a life from the outside and you're feeling how you wish it was on the inside, right? So you start to have this understanding of, if I want my inside life to match my outside life, I have to find the commonalities between those two, right? So if you want to live a life that is aligned with, maybe being very creative, but you're living a life that is very maybe managerial, and you're like, I want to be my own person, start to ask yourself, well, what about you would allow you to be catapulted into an environment that will allow you to really express your creativity, right? And so that clarity only really comes by sitting with yourself and forming your own understanding and taking some time for yourself. Like in Western culture, a lot of the times it's like, well, just take self-care, right? But that is forming a misconception of what it is that you should really be doing. Self-care has this connotation that, like go to the spa and, just have a lazy day and watch a movie and, maybe eat some comfort food. But what self-care really is caring for yourself, right? And what that should mean is really, having an understanding or forming an understanding of who yourself is, and then take actions that are aligned with nurturing that, right? Like, if I don't care for a spa day, if I don't care for comfort food, like, if I'm taking a self-care day, partaking in that type of behavior would actually be very strenuous for me, right? Like, this is a self-care moment for me right now. So you have to start to, pause and take some time with yourself and ask yourself, well, what is some self-care that I've not been doing in my life, right? And you start to ask yourself, like, how would I treat myself if I was someone that I cared for? And what that would mean is, you separate yourself from the rigmarole that happens in life, that rat race that you're constantly like, I gotta get here, I gotta get there, I gotta go all over the place to fulfill this external thing, right? But when you start to actually take some self-care, you put that aside and you say, okay, well, who am I? Who is this person in this rat race that's a part of this rigmarole? And then this beginning of this exponential growth can start to happen, right? Because the growth is exponential. But if you don't start with this pause and this internal seeking of who you are, you never engage in the beginning or the process of this initial growth. So you may ask yourself, like, how is it that all these people out there, that I see on social media or that I see in the movies or all these people that I see in these, exalted societal environments, you may ask yourself, how do you get to that? Because you're tired of living a life that has a 9-to-5 job and you want to have some level of freedom. And you ask yourself, well, how can I get from here to there? How can I do this? And the only way that you're really going to get there is by having an understanding of where to start. And sitting with yourself will give you clarity of your origin, because you are your origin. Your true self is your origin. It's your original self, right? So really pausing and taking some time to understand who you are, who this person on your journey is, will allow you to get from here to there, right? And then you start to live this life that is full of joy and full of pleasantness and full of purpose and fulfillment and value, right? And you start to be a part of something far greater than you can conceive right now, right? It's, I'm on the other side of it, right? I'm on the side of, I have an understanding of what it feels like on some level to be a part of living a life over there, right? I'm not to the heights that I see a lot of these other, like moguls in society are, but I'm getting there, right? And before I was here, I couldn't have an understanding of what it would feel like to be here. So if you're listening to me and you're thinking like, like whatever he's saying is never gonna work. There's no possible way that what he's saying will allow me to, get from where I am to where I want to be. And I get that. I wouldn't have listened to me either if I was speaking to myself when I was in a similar place of where you are. I would disregard everything that I'm saying. But you have to have some level of faith. You have to trust in the product of the work while you're executing the work, right? Like, you may be going to a 9-to-5 job and you haven't been paid yet after those 2 weeks have happened. But in those 2 weeks leading up to when you get your paycheck, you trust, you have faith that you will get paid at the end of those 2 weeks. And this is the same type of ideology that you have to have when you're investing in yourself. You have to believe that you will be rewarded at the end of your effort, or when you reach a milestone in putting effort into your life. So if you're in a place right now and your life is full of tension and you're striving to get out of that, but you don't really know how, and you really want to stop living a life that is aligned with fulfilling perceptions of other people, and you want to start living a life that is authentic to who you truly are, you have to figure out who that is. You have to have an understanding of who that person is that you want to express, right? Because you and I both know that you have more potential than what you're doing right now. But the question is, how to get there, right? So you have to have an understanding of what your potential is. And to do that, you have to have an understanding of where the origin of your potential is. And that's your true self. That's your true identity, right? So in pausing and taking some time and listening to this internal self, right? And distinguishing what isn't that, and then filling that gap with what you really want to be a part of is the beginning, right? And then you put work in that it's aligned with growing and developing that. But that's for another time. Like, that's step 2, right? You don't think about step 2 until you're at step 1, right? Until you fulfill step 1, right? So take some time with yourself. Understand who you truly are. Understand what you want to be a part of, right? And then you can start to live a life over there that you wish that you were living right now, right? But you have to take step 1 before you can take step 2. So, the thing is, like, I believe in you because I've done this work. I'm doing this work right now as I'm talking to my phone, to you, right? So believe in yourself as much as you would expect someone who already has made the progress would believe in their prior self, right? Just because you haven't reaped the rewards of your effort yet doesn't mean that it's an impossibility for you to believe in your efforts, right? Just as you anticipate getting paid in those 2 weeks that you're working, anticipate that you'll grow as much as you expect yourself to grow if you put in the work right now. And start at the beginning, right? Start at the beginning. And have an understanding of who your true self is, and then you can get to step 2. So I think that's a good place to start. Maybe next episode I'll talk about step 2. But take some time with yourself. Understand what isn't you. Have an understanding of what you is, and fill that gap. And then you start to live a life of amazement, really, and you start to be grateful for where you are in your life. And I can't wait for you to get there. I really can't wait for you to get there, because being there is so amazing. It's really so amazing to be at that point of, wow, I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe this is my life, right? And you can get there too. You can get here too, right? If you just believe in yourself and you know that it's possible, right? So I believe in you. I hope you believe in you. Thanks for watching. My name's Elliot. This has been another episode of Urban Sage 101. Please drop a like, a comment, share if you've gotten something out of this. I'm sure someone else would too. So until next time, peace.